Hello aspirants, welcome to PW OnlyIAS. I'm here Harpreet Singh with a daily analysis of the Hindu from 16th of November 2024. Let's begin with today's analysis. So this is a Telegram account where you can basically find the PDF along with the other material that is required for your preparation. So let's move ahead. So what all topics we have taken for today's analysis? The first one, carbon border adjustment mechanism. The second is universities versus religious institutions. Basically, the editorial deals with the Aligarh Muslim University and the judgment of the Supreme Court regarding the minority institution. That is what is dealt in this particular analysis of the editorial. Now, sex with minor wife is rape. Now, that is what was the judgment given by the court, and we'll see the other dimensions associated with that. Narcotics Control Bureau, Barak River. Now, these are the things from the prelims perspective. Obviously, this can be asked in the mains also, but prelims, from the prelims perspective, it can very well be asked. So let's see. Topic 1, GS3. India voices dissent against the trade barriers linked to emissions. Now, over here, carbon border adjustment mechanism is the main core. Now, please remember that we had discussed similar topic in the previous weeks also regarding carbon border adjustment mechanism. So because it is in the newspaper, we'll discuss it again in a proper systematic manner. Let's see. What is carbon border adjustment mechanism? Now please understand this. It refers to the carbon tax which would be imposed on imports of products made from the processes which are not environment friendly or sustainable or which are non-green. Now, supposingly, a particular country is importing certain products from another country, and in that particular country from which the import is being done, the production of that product is derived or using energy which is actually produced from unsustainable resources, or let us say non-green means. Then the country which has this, like the European Union, which has this carbon border adjustment mechanism, it is going to impose a tax on the countries from which the import is being done. So carbon tax is being imposed. Now let us see this first of all, what it is, and then we'll see how it basically works also through a diagrammatic representation. Let's go to the background. Carbon border adjustment mechanism is basically a part for Fit for 55 in a 2030 package. Now again, in order to achieve the goal of the sustainable development goals, again this is a part of the European Union strategy also, which the European Union plans to reduce the greenhouse gases emissions by at least 55% by 2030 compared to the 1990 levels of emission that was taking place. That means during 1990 what the emissions were, and you compare it with now. So we have to reduce it by at least 55% that the European Union says with the European climate law. Now see, it is a policy tool by ensuring that imported goods are subject to the same carbon cost of products produced by the European Union. Now this is something very interesting. First of all, one thing that is coming is a carbon tax is being imposed. Second thing is the statement which says is that it is a European Union policy because it is framed in the law also now that they have to move towards greener energy, and in the process of that they will not let some energy or product being produced from an unsustainable means be directly entering the European Union market, and for that a tax needs to be imposed on them. Along with it, this statement says by this policy tool and ensuring that imported goods are subject to the same carbon cost. What do you mean by the same carbon cost being imposed? Let's understand this first of all, so the mechanism would be clear. Supposingly, let's take an example over here. Supposingly, European Union, there's a company in any European Union country which is producing supposedly aluminium, or let us say steel. Steel is being produced in a company E, which is European Union company. And there is a company I, which is also producing, let us say, steel, aluminium, and other products. Now, you very well know that there is export of these iron ores also, export of steel also. Even India exports a lot of steel also. So now just understand, supposingly this company E over here is producing steel. Now remember that because European Union has very strict environmental laws, so the energy utilizations and the processes that would be involved in production of steel in European Union would have, let us say, a lot of technological advancements so that the emissions can be reduced. So that means this company E would have spent a lot of money in order to reduce the emissions. Let us say, rather than using coal, they would be using, let us say, some supposedly renewable energy, supposedly, let us say, nuclear energy. So what we are trying to say is that means this for your company E to meet the norms, to meet the norms of European Union climate law, which we saw right now, a lot of extra cost would be imposed on the companies. Extra cost imposition. Now the company over here will say that we have spent a lot of money on producing a set as a product or a steel because you had told we had to meet the climate change norms. So we have transitioned towards more sustainable greener energy means of, let us say, generating a product which is now more expensive also. Now over here India, let us assume this particular company is using what? Coal as a major means. Coal. Now you would be seeing coal in a way is much more cheaper than the green energy means that this company would have used. So that means the production cost of this will be lesser. Production cost of say steel is lesser, is much lesser than this. Now supposingly European Union is importing steel from India. Do you realize this, that when, let us say, India is exporting, export, and European Union is importing, export of steel. Now when the steel is being sent to European Union, any country in European Union, the production cost is less. So it will, what will it lead to? Because it will disrupt the market with respect to the domestic companies in European Union. Why? Because these companies in European Union countries had spent a lot of money to move towards green energy and utilization of green energy, and in order to meet the climate norms. On the other hand, these companies who are not meeting the norms in the other countries are sending their products. What will happen? These companies E will suffer losses. So in order to let their own companies also meet the climate norm and force the other companies also to transition towards green energy, what will the European Union law do? It will impose carbon tax on this I. Now what happens? So that means what extra money had been spent by this company E in European Union in order to transition towards the greener energy, which is not being met by them, tax would be imposed on the imports that are done from the side of India by the European Union, so that there is price parity, which was being actually not met if a cheaper coal is being used to produce a product. So that means when the European Union is going to import any steel or any product which is made of which is using non-green means, then a carbon tax would be imposed on them, and only then it will be let to enter the European Union market. So this carbon border adjustment mechanism, that means in order when across the border something is coming, so carbon tax is being imposed to adjust the disparity that is basically taking place for the European companies who had moved towards adopting a greener mean. So this is basically carbon border adjustment mechanism. Now the problem that arises is it will impact India very badly. How? Impact on India's export. India exports iron and steel. A levy of from 19.8 to 52.7% will be imposed approximately if this happens. So that means something that costs rupees 100 will cost close to 152.7. So automatically that will make the India's export then suffer a lot, because automatically the prices will rise. Why will the companies then import from India? That is a problem. Starting from January 1st, 2026, this will be implemented, and that is a point of concern which India is basically raising. Risk to the export competitiveness. It may expand the other sectors too, like for example, pharma, textile. Now, please understand, right now a limited area is where this carbon border adjustment mechanism is being imposed. Let us say like iron, steel industries and all. It can later be imposed on pharmaceuticals, even petroleum, even chemicals. In that case, India's export will very badly suffer. So India's coining this or telling the discussing during the COP29, which is taking place at Azerbaijan, the conference of the parties under the UNFCCC, that this is something that is against the rule of law, that you are basically making the developing and the least developing countries suffer. Next, potential death nail to the medium scale industries. Please understand that out of the, if we see India's export, remember that 42% of the total export of India is from the MSME sector. Now, these MSME sectors are those which again are not very rich or very, let us say, have a lot of money power with them, because they are just managing their means also, most of them. When such norms are basically imposed, they are not able to basically match the competition, and what will happen? The export potential will decrease and the MSME sector will suffer very badly, which is again the backbone of the India's economy. More than 11 to 12 crore people are directly employed in these sectors. They will also suffer. So that is why it will have a ripple effect on the other aspects of the economy, and a problematic situation will arise. So that is what is being discussed over here. Let's move ahead. Universities are different from the religious institutions. Please remember, in this the writer basically has mentioned or dealt with a discussion of the topic of Aligarh Muslim University being declared as a minority institution, and that majorly that has been discussed over here. So before we discuss this, what he says in brief, let us see what the judgment was, because that will sum up most of the details that are mentioned here, like Article 30 and all. See, Article 30 of the Constitution of India basically talks about that all minorities, whether based on religion or language, shall have the right to establish and administer educational institutions of their choice. Right? So now, please understand, when we talk about the educational institutions in India, they're provided with a lot of rights and liberties. Like, for example, the people belonging to the religious and the linguistic minorities have the given under Article 30 that they have the power to establish or administer educational institutions of their own choice, and they can do it on their own. Various laws do not apply to them. For example, the reservation based on scheduled caste and scheduled tribe and OBCs do not apply to them, because constitutionally Article 30 guarantees them the right to administer and establish educational institution of their choice. So with respect to the rights of the minority, when I talk about minority, please understand it does not mean only religion, because over here it means religions as well as linguistic minority. So first is the constitutional provision which we have discussed. Second is the administrative autonomy of these institutions. Third is admission and fee structure. They can basically, again, decide their own fee structure. They can have the freedom to admit the students of the community, of their community to which the institution is basically, let us say, associated with, whichever religion or language for that matter. No reservation obligation, that scheduled caste, scheduled tribe and OBC reservation is not mandatory in these educational institutions, because as mentioned in Article 30. National Commission for the Minority of Educational Institution is there so that a proper management of these minority educational institutions is done. Along with it, it advises the government on the further rules that can be made with respect to the provisions that are given under Article 30. So we see over here, right of the minorities educational institution is in a way drafted or mentioned in the Constitution in detail. Now, when I talk about the question of the Aligarh Muslim University, it has had a very old history from the time. The discussion whether this university is a minority educational institution or not is a bone of contention, because you will see that the Article 30 mentions about choice. It mentions about religious and linguistic minority. Along with it, we know that Aligarh Muslim University is a central university. Now, being a central university, can it also be a minority institution? That was always a point of discussion that came forward in front of the Supreme Court as well as the High Court. The recent judgment that has been given a few days back in which Supreme Court has very categorically stated that, see, though it is a minority institution or whether it is a, let us say, a university, the conflict has been there. So what the Supreme Court says, it can have both the statuses. It is a central university. Along with it, it can also be a minority institution. So let us see the dimensions over here. See, in 1875, Aligarh Muslim University was given a minority status. This is before the independence time. If we move ahead, it continued post-independence because Article 30, Subpart 1, we have already seen that it provides the right to establish and administer educational institutions of their own choice with respect to the linguistic and the religious minorities. So later on, we see a PIL, public interest litigation, was filed with the Supreme Court. Supreme Court, in its judgment in 1967, in the case of Aziz Basha versus Union of India 1967 case, said that Aligarh Muslim University is a central university, so it cannot be a minority institution. Why? Because Article 30 says that you have the right to establish and administer educational institutions of your choice. In this case, it is a central government which is giving the funds to the university as a major chunk. So it is not, you are not, the question came, whether you are established, have established it or not is one question. Second is, the funds are being given by the government. So how can you have a minority institution also? Because when you talk about the concept of secularism, in this particular case, it was decided that when it talk about secularism, Indian secularism is a principled distance, that you maintain equal distance from all the religions, right? So you cannot have a minority institution also and a central university both within the same university tag. So they said, okay, this will be a central university, it's fine, cannot be a minority institution. So in order to counter this particular judgment of the Supreme Court, the government of India in 1981 passed the Aligarh Muslim University Amendment Act, where it restored the status of the minority institution on Aligarh Muslim University. To counter this, what happened, a particular individual filed a case in the Allahabad High Court. In Allahabad High Court 2006, the Allahabad High Court basically struck down. That means they said the judgment that the amendment made in 1981 is wrong, and that means again the status of the minority institution was taken away from the Aligarh Muslim University. What happened? Then the case was referred to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court, in the recent case few days back, reverted the decision of the 1967 order, reversed it. Now the reversal was that, again what I said in the beginning also, Supreme Court said that Aligarh Muslim University is a central university, that's fine. Along with it, it can also maintain a status of a minority institution. So because it is guaranteed under Article 14 of the Constitution of India. And it does not go against the secular ideology or secular spirit over here. And because we are preserving the constitutional spirit. This is what the Honorable Supreme Court had mentioned. Now, let's see. When we come to this article, it is basically a discussion of the same thing. Over here, it says because that Aligarh University's ancestor MAO College was established in 1877 and all. We realize that judgment was given in 1967, which basically reversed the judgment. The recent judgment basically reversed the 1967 judgment. So Professor Mustafa is mentioning about that in this particular article part. Then he mentions about what the Article 30 is. Over here, because you've already seen the discussion, so that is why we can just move fast also over here. Article 30 basically talks about, which is discussed here, that the linguistic and the religious minorities have the right to establish and administer educational institutions of their own choice. And based on that, we saw that the judgment was given. Please understand, one more thing very interestingly, as said, that the writer mentions here, see, one would see that in 1967 some judgment was given. Then the parliament basically reversed that. Then the High Court again Allahabad High Court in 2006 went according to the judgment given by Supreme Court in 1967. But then Supreme Court itself reversed its stand. So over here we also get to know that the Supreme Court or even the courts are not bound by the judgments that have been given by the court in the previous cases. That is again a very, very important cheese. The thing is that if Supreme Court has said that this thing is right, but after, let us say, a month, let's say this is wrong, then again it is absolutely fine, because it is not bound by the judgment that is given in the previous cases. Society changes, situations changes, new evidence come, so it can reverse decision. So that is why many people were of the view in various articles that how come Supreme Court has completely reversed it. Now the situations change, society is dynamic in nature, that is why. Now as we move ahead, we realize that discussion over here was also that when the Article 30 mentions right to establish and administer, the word choice is given. Now the choice, the question that came with respect to Aligarh Muslim University was that whether it was established or what was the significance of it, or whether the MAO college, that is the ancestor of Aligarh Muslim University, basically collected certain fund so they established on their own, or what was the mechanism. So it was again described by the writer that they had collected certain fund through which the that MAO college was established, and the choice over here again is dealing with establishing as well as administering. When we talk about the minority status and we talk about, let us say, about minority status, it is about a part of your administration. And in that particular case, Article 30 basically upholds it. When the judgment given by the Supreme Court is upholding the Article 30, which gives a choice with respect to administering along with the establishment that took place. So it is basically a debate of Article 30, which is being upheld by the Honorable Supreme Court. And then we see in 1974, there was a view given by Justice Beg. Now let us move a little bit here and see. Justice Beg had said in 1974, Justice M.H. Beg in Xavier's case in 1974 said, was categorical that if the object of enactment is to compel a minority institution, even indirectly, to give up the exercise of its fundamental rights, the provision which have this effect will be void or inoperative against the minority institution. This is again a major dimension which again the Supreme Court has seen and observed. That means Justice Beg in 1974 in Xavier's case mentioned that any instrument or any enactment that is being promulgated, or let us say enforced, which goes against the fundamental right of the minority institution. Over here, fundamental right of the minority institution is Article 30. That means they have a right to establish an administrator educational institution of their choice. So if any imposition or any enactment is done which goes against this particular article, that enforcement will be nullified. So that means over here, even Justice Beg said that the enactment or the aspect that because it is a minority institution, anything which is done in order to take away its status will itself be nullified. So now this is again an extreme stand that was taken by Justice Beg. The Honorable Supreme Court right now has given a balanced statement. What they have said is, see, it is a central university, it is a minority institution also, and both things can go together. There, it is not a case because, see, minority is also a part of the society also. So they said that both things can go together. That is why if you see, if you come to this article, you will be seeing a particular thing. Minority institutions can also be institutions of national importance. Now, because central university, various universities are given the status of national importance, it can be a minority institution also and given national importance also. That is why this judgment of the Supreme Court was basically upheld. So let's move ahead. Prelims. Topic 1, GS2, sex with minor wife amounts to rape. Now please understand, when this article is mentioned over here, please understand, minor with respect to a woman is 18 years, right? Please understand the definition of rape. When we talk about, the most important concept is consent, or let us say if we move ahead, the word consent, right? So why this is important? See, consent means that both the parties have mutually decided to get into a sexual intercourse. Clear? Now this is valid if both are adults, non-minors. The Honorable High Court basically said, in this particular case, if supposingly a wife is minor and you are having a sexual intercourse, assuming that because she is the wife and you can have a sexual intercourse, they said it will amount to rape. That is what, again, a very important dimension over here is mentioned. So over here, then the POXCO Act would be imposed and strict action will be taken because the wife is minor. Over here, simply having the consent that the girl is less than 18 years of age and assuming that, yes, because she has given the consent, you can have a sexual intercourse, that is completely prohibited over here. So what do we have to see in this? How did the age of consent, that means that a particular age should be there. Now, please understand, if the girl is less than 18 years of age, even that the consent is there, the girl says yes, to her husband that you can have a sexual intercourse, in that case also it will amount to rape. So that means the age of consent, that means below 18 you are a minor and your consent or non-consent in both cases will amount to rape. So that means it is after the age of 18 years for a girl that your opinion with respect to consent, yes or no, will make value. Below that, anybody having a sexual intercourse with that girl over here will amount to rape. Beginning, the idea of age of consent was first deliberated in the 19th century in the case of Phulomi Devi, a minor girl of 11 years who was married off to a 35-year man. This minor woman died after her husband forcibly consummated or had a sexual intercourse after the marriage. And because of that, Age of Consent Act 1891 was enforced. Because they said, because though you would see, over here, forcibly is also mentioned, first of all. Along with it, various cases, a girl might agree also. But in that case also, if she is minor, it is rape. That is what the High Court has said. What is the importance of age of consent? It affects the child's safety. Increasing or decreasing the age of consent will have a directive bearing with respect to the safety of the child. Child rapes, in the absence of the clear age of consent, you will be realizing it is difficult to ascertain if a particular sexual activity was an offense or consensual. Then you have curb child pornography. The age of consent is also very important to the control or the menace of the child pornography. These dimensions become important. Now comes the aspect of protection of children from sexual offenses, POXCO Act 2012. That is what we are saying. If they're married, first of all, if the girl and boy are married, and the girl is, in case what is mentioned is minor, then sexual intercourse, though this act is applicable to both girls and boys, please understand, but we are presuming over here that let us say a man is elder and the girl is a minor. In that case, the sexual intercourse taking place, the man will be convicted, let us say, under the POXCO Act. A trial will run in that case, and it is a very important step towards the protection of the children. Please remember, reverse can also happen, but most of the cases you'll be seeing that the cases of girl being minor and the man being elder is very common also in case of these child marriages that take place. So what is protection of children from sexual offenses? The objective was this law is framed to protect the children from the sexual assault, sexual harassment and pornography, and provide for establishment of special court for their trial, because there are children over there involved in these problems. Crime. Individuals committing sexual advances on a child below 16 years of age shall be punished with jail ranging from 20 years of imprisonment for life for the remainder of the natural death of the person. Next, consent. Consent given by a girl child below the age of 18 years is not recognized as a valid consent. Again, the same thing. This is what is the High Court upholding. That less than 18 years of age, any child, even if the consent is there, it will not be accepted. And sexual intercourse with a minor girl amounts to offenses of rape. Amendment. The Act was amended in 2019 by the introduction of stringent punishment, including death penalty for committing sexual crimes on the children. Other features, apart from the sexual offenses, POXCO Act even also seeks to advance punishment with respect to drug being administered to children to bring them into early sexual maturity. Now, if the people do these heinous crimes that they administer drugs to, particularly the girls, so that they have sexual maturity in them in order to have sexual intercourse with them. Now, these are heinous crimes that take place. Investigation processes again are made as child friendly as possible. Again, special courts are there. Even when you have to take the testimony of the children also, a environment very friendly over there. The police officers are also not in their uniforms. They are generally in the civil uniform. The atmosphere is such they can easily talk, because the atrocities that a child might have gone through is something unbearable and beyond the understanding of many people also. So that is why a very child-friendly environment needs to be there. So that is what is basically created over here. Next is topic 2, GS2, page 5, Narcotics Control Bureau. Please understand, 70 kg of meth is seized in Gujarat coast, 8 arrested. We see that over here, Narcotics Control Bureau is mentioned, but along with it, we'll see a lot of problems with respect to drugs also, and what the government of India's provisions are in resolving that. Narcotics Control Bureau, NCB, is the chief law enforcement and intelligence agency of India, responsible for drug trafficking and abuse of illegal substances. It was created on 17th March 1986 to enable the full implementation of Narcotics, Drug and Psychotropic Substances Act 1985, and to fight its violation through prevention of illicit trafficking in narcotics, drugs and psychotropic substances Act 1988. So in order, it is an enforcement agency in order to deal with the issues that are basically related to drugs. Now, as we move ahead, please understand that challenges of the drugs abuses are many. There are a lot of abuses that are there. So let's see that. First, the money that is gained is basically used for smuggling of the weapons. Then financing of terror activities, law and order issues, because if people who consume drugs can be creating a lot of law and order issues in the city or in the place wherever they are. Economic impact also. Substance, basically what do they do? They overall reduce the efficiency of a person, reducing the man-day work. Along with it, might cause economic burden, because these drugs are very expensive also, not only harming your body but also your mental ability. And along with it, you go into a cyclic process of consuming these drugs again and again, which are expensive, and then you tend to destroy your savings, your wealth that you have just to buy the drugs. Fourth, undermining the role of the state. Trafficking nexus can subvert and corrupt state institutions, and that is one of the major grounds, because what we say is collusive corruption, that is the nexus of the drug mafias as well as the state institution of people who are involved in that work, and rampant corruption is there. If you go on over here, facilitation of organized crime, a large nexus which is not only domestic, internationally, which is going on with respect to this, is again a major concern. Then loss of demographic dividend, because if the young people from the age of the working age from, let us say, 14 till 59 are involved in this, you cannot work also. You will not be in a particular proper state to work. So what that leads to? Again, a loss of demographic dividend. Adverse social impact. Again, the people who are in the consuming drugs and all, they will not be able to interact with the people in a proper systematic manner. They will be shy even. They lose their confidence in interacting to the other people. So that again impacts the social harmony. Then 8, psychological impact. Yes, mental health issues. According to various reports you have seen, India at present is already experiencing 74% of the Indians are having mental health issues. So now you can imagine these drugs basically aggravate that. Government measures with response to counter drug menace. Please understand, the Ministry of Home Affairs are cracking down in different ways. Strengthening institutional structure, empowerment of all agencies related to the control of narcotics, and launching of awareness campaign. But along with it, please understand, there are various legislative means, like the Drugs and Cosmetic Acts. It basically controls or regulates the manufacture and distribution of drugs in India. So again, a major aspect. Narcotics, Drugs and Psychotropic Substances Act. It prohibits a person from production, manufacturing and cultivation, possession, sale, purchase, transport, storage or consumption of any narcotic drug or psychotropic drug or substance. Prevention of illicit traffic in narcotic drugs and psychotropic substances Act 1988. Under the Act, it is illegal for a person to produce, manufacture, again similarly with respect to psychotropic drugs. Next we see institutional measures. We have the Narcotics Control Bureau, which you have already seen as a major law enforcement agency with respect to control of these drugs, and as well as the implementation of the laws that we just studied. Then we have Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. The Ministry for Drug Demand Reduction is nodal ministry for the demand reduction, has taken the following steps. National Action Plan for Drug Demand Reduction for 2018 to 2025. Very important, because this program is still going on. Aims to at the reduction of the consumption of drugs, and how basically those people can be mainstream because they were impacted by the drug consumption. Scheme for prevention of alcoholism and substance and drug abuse. So this is again, financial assistance is given to the voluntary organization so that they can basically act as a barrier, act as a liaison between the people who are basically into drugs and the government, so that they can basically help in the people coming out of this alcohol addiction and the drug addiction. Other preventive government measures: increase patrolling and surveillance, training programs, empowering the cross-border agencies, because you see large number of drugs basically come from the border areas. You see either from the Afghanistan region coming India, from Nepal, or even from the Myanmar region. And that is again a problematic issue. That is why the border forces should be again very vigilant. That is why their role over here becomes very important. Nasha Mukti Bharat campaign, a campaign launched in 2020 for, let us say, drug-free India, is something a very important dimension. But again, we see that changing dimensions of lifestyle is again contributing to this consumption increase. Unawareness, lack of contact with your parents, social distancing with respect to your family also contributes to people going to these avenues in order to consume. So we have to have a holistic strategy where strengthening anti-narcotic units, narco coordination centers, along with it, education and awareness of the community and the students in particular becomes very important. Next is Barak River. Please understand, if you see this, Barak River rises in the Manipur hills, enter the Lakhimpur, Assam. It enters Bangladesh as Surma and Kushiara. And then the river is called Meghna and receives combined flow of Ganga and Mahaputra. This is a place where Barak is rising. It is moving here, entering Bangladesh, going here, and then joining Brahmaputra. So this is your Barak River. I've drawn the whole diagram, but this is the Barak River. If you see, Barak River system is a geographical area. Whole river system has 6,922 square kilometers. Again, it is in the state of, it's, if you see the complete drainage system, it is rise in the region of India, Myanmar, and Bangladesh, if I include the tributaries also. With respect to the states, the largest drainage area is in Meghalaya, then it has Manipur also, Mizoram, Assam, Tripura, Nagaland, because if I include all the tributaries of Barak also, then obviously these would be covered. Now, let's move to the MCQs and their explanation, which is the last part. Question number 1. Explanation. Question 2. Options. Explanation. Question 3. Options. Explanation. Question 4. Options, explanation. Question 5, options, explanation. So this was the analysis of the Hindu from my side. We'll be continuing with the analysis again on Monday. Take care and Jai Hind. Hopefully you liked and enjoyed the session. Keep learning from it, keep revising, and all the best for the examination. Jai Hind.